One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to One Question, where we highlight executive leaders in college athletics. Our guest today is Greg Myford. Greg is currently the Director of Athletics at University of Alaska-Anchorage. Greetings, Greg. Thanks for joining us today.
Nice to be with you, Ty. Thank you.
Now, Greg, you've been on the job for roughly 8 months there at Alaska-Anchorage. Your stop just prior was you were running IMG at Florida State. You spent some time there at Penn State, and you have a wealth of experience in the professional ranks totaling over 30 years in sports, and that includes some time in television. Now you come on and you're developing the culture, you're developing the machine that is athletics there at Alaska-Anchorage. Can you tell us how you put things in place, and what did you do when you got there to get the department moving in a direction that you wanted to go?
Great question. Sure. Well, first and foremost, upon arriving last July, Ty, I really needed to make sure before anything else that UAA athletics was aligned with the university mission overall and the chancellor's vision. There were some changes, obviously, within athletics with my arrival, and then on top of that, there were also changes in the senior administration of the university, including a new chancellor and new vice chancellor that has supervision of athletics. So everything else kind of became secondary to that initially in order to make sure that athletics could fulfill its own mission. So that was first and foremost, and we did that a number of different ways. Walking in the door, I was very aware of the strong academic performance that athletics had here at UAA, as well as their winning tradition and their winning teams. But we needed to be certain that everyone working in athletics was aware of that mission, as well as the chancellor's vision and how our athletic team members fit into that. And so I spent a lot of time from the outset getting feedback from our athletic employees and sitting down and having conversations. I think I had 48 to 50 conversations with all of our full-time employees within the first 45 days that I was here, and that was just a terrific wealth of knowledge. But from the outset, I was very clear that we would really have some cornerstone principles and expectations here of all of our team members, and those are focusing on our fundamentals, professionally managing our affairs, and clearly communicating. And I tried to encourage that if we are doing all three of those things, regardless of the area or the unit that you worked in, we would be improving. So after establishing and confirming, our university mission and serving the university mission as well as the chancellor's vision, and then establishing our three fundamentals within athletics, after that we began looking at our organizational priorities. And we have several of those that rose out of those conversations with all of our full-time team members. And what came out of that really was we were able to develop our top 50 priorities, which sounds like a big number, and it is, but with all of those priorities, we were able to distribute those across our leadership team so that now all of those 50 priorities are assigned to a member of the leadership team and have a one-page outline that has been drawn up that details our specific goals that we need to achieve associated with and in support of those priorities. So, and all of that is leading back to, again, serving the mission, and at the center of that mission is never losing sight that all of our work ties back to student-athlete well-being.
The first, I guess you said, cornerstone that you mentioned was your fundamentals. And I imagine that the student-athlete well-being is a part of the fundamentals as a department. In those top, the 50 priorities, when you put that list in front of your staff, are they ranked like the number one, this is our top priority, number two, or is it just these are the 50 most important things in our department? How is that list structured?
Yeah, well, it's not 1 through 50 because what they are, the way we've been able to distribute them is across our different units. So, compliance is going to have priorities, academics is going to have priorities, our strength and conditioning is going to have priorities. So now within that, they will be ranked. But I think one of the key attributes of working through these priorities is that they also have the ability to be adaptable. So what is a priority today, and we begin to make headway on or complete, that moves off the list and something else becomes a higher priority.
Yes, sir. That's very interesting. And then, of course, tying back to the fundamentals and the student athlete, have you developed key initiatives that will help you execute the priorities that help to execute the grander mission, which is the 3 cornerstones?
Sure, absolutely. Well, put it this way, we better have, right? I mean,
right, yeah.
It's one thing for us to have goals and priorities, but we need to take action on those, and that action comes through, some very specific initiatives. One of the ones that we're most proud of here is a new initiative called Direct Connect, which is literally a connection between all of our Seawolf student athletes and our senior leadership team, including my office. So what that really is it's 10 student athletes every other week from our various teams that we meet with, myself and at least one other senior administrator, and we have the conference room and we'll bring them in, and most of the time they do not know exactly why they're coming into the room. So we break the ice a little bit, and we'll have some pizza, and everyone has a little time to get acclimated. But as they come in the door, everyone is given a questionnaire, a personal questionnaire that starts out with some very basic things like name, the sport you play, the position you play, what year you are, what your hometown is. But then it moves into some more personal information, what your favorite foods are, the last concert you saw, and so you can kind of see the wheels turning. That I'm going to have to fill this out and introduce myself. But what's really gets interesting is when we collect the sheets and then hand them back out. And with the basic rule that you're not allowed to introduce yourself or a teammate. So what ends up happening, it's a terrific icebreaker where everyone is interviewing someone else that in all likelihood they either don't know very well or perhaps even haven't met. And so that's become very rewarding, and it puts everyone on an even level. So the premise of Direct Connect is very simple. How do we best serve our student athletes if we're not listening to them on a regular basis and understanding what's important to them? And so there's opportunities for us to do that. The traditional exit interview or postseason survey, which are helpful, and there's a reason those are done. But at the same time, when the student athletes are in a setting, I'm finding, when they're in a setting like this, we can take kind of almost real-time information and utilize their feedback to determine some of our priorities, like we talked about a moment ago, and being able to address some things right away without having to wait until the end of the year or the so-called off-season.
I have a question here about the functionality of it. If say you and I were 2 students, I may be the ice hockey player and you're a basketball player, and you fill out yours, I fill out mine, we turn them in, and then I get yours. Am I introducing you, or what is the process after I get your form?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. So what happens when we redistribute the questionnaires to everyone in the room? So a student athlete will end up having my questionnaire. So I fill one out, as does the other administrator. And so someone will be introducing me. I'll be introducing one of our student athletes. And then our student athletes will be introducing each other. And so what's really interesting on that is that you begin to see and realize that there are some student athletes in the room that they may recognize each other, as they pass in the hallway or in the weight room, but they really don't know anything about each other and really don't know much. So, one of the ancillary benefits of this program has really been our student athletes get to know each other. And that's really a powerful thing. It has led to direct conversations, Tai, about one of our team members organizing their own team to come to another team's event. So, it really builds support and, as you say, a closer family tie.
Right. I imagine as they're introducing each other, they find commonalities and the conversation just takes off from there. I wonder about the selection process for the 10 athletes.
So, with our 13 programs, and we have 160 student athletes, the beauty of this program is during the course of the year and across the academic year, all student athletes will be able to participate in this. And what a terrific thing, certainly for us as a leadership team, being able to hear from all of our student athletes. One of the very direct benefits that we suspected would happen is we're going to learn a lot. As I said, if we're not listening to our student athletes, how do we understand what's important to them? But what has come out of this and these conversations is we have agenda items each week for our leadership team meeting that is content that's coming directly from our Direct Connect sessions. As I said, that helps us prioritize what we need to get done. Where does what they're talking about fit into something we're already working on or something we need to work on? And then, some of the ancillary benefits I already mentioned where, they not only get to know us, which is something that was important to us in developing the program, but they get to know each other. And then finally, as I said, this is a program that will touch every student athlete throughout the year. So directly to your point, the way we get the student athletes involved and how they participate in a specific Direct Connect session is we basically rotate the teams around. Our senior administrator for internal, Jane Pallister, contacts our coaches and has our coaches volunteer the student athletes that they'd like to participate for a given time. The other and that has a benefit in and of itself. Now our coaches are aware that their student athletes are participating. They're aware that the senior administration is in touch with the student athletes, and it becomes a full circle. It becomes a full circle program because there are also agenda items that we can utilize in our coaches meetings that come out of our conversations. So it's really been rewarding, and again, dialing it back to let's never lose sight of why we're here. This ties back to our student athlete well-being, and we look to continue this program, and we'll certainly continue to enhance it too.
Right, which is an aspect of managing the fundamentals of the whole department. I have a couple more questions about this. Is an interesting program
as well as clearly communicating. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, right. This is an interesting program here. All student athletes are a part of it, so the coaches, they won't recommend somebody twice, right? So everybody on the team has an opportunity to go. Because, some people aren't necessarily the most social, right? That's probably an uncomfortable situation for different people with different types of personalities. But the coach is like, hey, you're one of the last people left. You got to do it, kind of thing. So how do they balance that part of it?
Well, no question. And the beauty of this is you're right. You have 10 different student athletes in the room. So you have 10 different personalities. You have 10 different interests. You have, several different cultures on a given day. And so the beauty in bringing them together is that, you get to hear that diversity of opinion. The other thing we're finding is when someone who's not necessarily or might not be inclined to speak up normally, if they have to go and knock on someone's door, they're just not going to go and do that. But when they're sitting around the conference room table with 9 of their peers and a slice of pizza, they loosen up a bit. And it's okay to share because everyone else is. And we've all experienced that. There's comfort in numbers, and that's an important part of the process. This is in many ways an educational process as well. When our student athletes are able to go into a conference room and have conversations with our administration, there's an aspect of that that's real life. And when they walk into the conference room in their first job, you're going to be expected to and know how to participate and contribute.
Yeah, I agree with that. How do you decide which senior administrator will join you in the meeting?
Yeah, strictly rotating it. So one day we'll have exactly. Yeah, I just make sure that everyone gets to participate. It's good for our student athletes to have exposure to the various professionals in our group and hear a little bit about the roles they play. One of the other benefits of this is now our student athletes, there's no question in my mind, they leave the room with a better understanding of what we do on their behalf and how we set our priorities and kind of what goes into running UAA athletics. That, again, dials back to participating in the educational process and making sure that they have as complete and as thorough an experience as they can while they're here.
Thinking about back to when I was a student athlete and then thinking about how my brain works now, right? If I was a student athlete then, I probably would have, after the meeting, asked, hey, can I come back to this? And then if I was on your senior staff, I'd probably have been like, hey, I know we can only go one time, but I just want to see it in another one if that's possible. This would be very interesting to me if I was on staff or even if I was a student athlete.
You know what? It's already happened, Ty, which is another great aspect of this. I've taken. So the other thing I should mention is that every student athlete leaves the room with the business card of myself and the other administrator or administrators that participate that day, with the very clear understanding that use this. So if you have a question about something, make sure that you're sending an email. My office number is on there. My cell number is on there. So, all of the student athletes have my information to utilize. And so that's one of the things that we want to make sure, and that's part of the direct connection, so to say, is making sure that they have that at their disposal and are comfortable using it. We would encourage someone to say, can I come back? If we get that kind of feedback, what does that tell you? How we're doing with the program.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where I was going with the final question here, Greg. Evaluation, right? So you're in 8 months, you got a few months before you get to kind of 1 year internal review when you look at yourself and what you've accomplished and what you've done, which as a good leader, you're probably doing consistently, throughout the year. But when you look at this program, how will you evaluate it? It seems like there's a lot of intangible things where you can see that it's doing a lot of good. Is there any tangible or quantifiable type evaluation points that you'll have when you look back at this?
No question about it. So each and every session, we have one of our administrators in the room is taking notes. I mean, we know what's talked about. We take down very specific points that the student athletes make or questions that the student athletes have. And so in getting to evaluating how we're doing, were we able to answer their questions, whether before they got up from the table, 2 days later, or 2 months later, depending on what we had to do in order to pursue the answer. But with those notes, we'll be able to go back and have a very accurate look at, here's what was talked about, here's what was suggested, here's our responses to that. How many of the suggestions were we really able to act on? And if we weren't able to act on it, did we respond to the student athlete with why? Part of this is making sure that it's not about giving everyone the answer that they want to hear. It's about giving everyone the answer that we have and can manage and are able to put into place. So I can probably most simply answer your question, Ty, with a statement that one of the student athletes made in our most recent session, and that is, and this has also been the most rewarding. One of our cross-country runners said, many people talk of having an open door policy. It's nice to know that you're all proving it. And so if we have student athletes that feel like they can drop us a note, give us a call, or show up at our door, we're accomplishing what we want to accomplish.
All right. Well, Greg, this has been an excellent conversation. That Direct Connect program sounds like it is actually doing a whole lot of benefit to the student athletes as well as you guys as a staff there at University of Alaska-Anchorage. I really appreciate you joining us here on One Question.
Well, I appreciate you providing the opportunity, Ty. Nice talking with you.
That was Greg Myford. He is the Director of Athletics at University of Alaska-Anchorage. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of One Question is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.